Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Hanna, and on this podcast, we talk about purity culture, sex, marriage, relationships, Christianity, girly things. It's a really fun time here on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so happy to be recording with you, as always. I'm trying to think of what has happened within the last week to update you on. Number one, the most important thing is that we did officially get the announcement of Taylor Swift's new album, The Life of a Showgirl. And I'm so excited. I could not be more excited. I could not be more excited that it's 12 songs like Wonderland and 12 songs like King of My Heart. That is what I mostly care about because Wonderland is one of my top forever always favorite songs, and so is King of My Heart is probably my favorite on Reputation. And the fact that we're going to get 12 songs like that, I truly cannot wait for October 3rd more. I also can't wait for October 3rd more because I'll be farther along in my pregnancy and hopefully will be feeling better. But I'm so excited for this new album. It is going to be the best. I just think I'm so lucky that I get to give birth and have a new Taylor Swift album to be playing in the background while I give birth. That's so exciting, so iconic for these boys to get to come out to The Life of a Showgirl. I am just over the moon excited that Taylor is doing this for us. It's time. We need a new album. And watching her on New Heights, the entire time my mouth was just dropped open. I could not believe we got 2 hours of Taylor. I could not believe how casual, nonchalant, normal it was. Her and Travis are beyond in love. You know, Travis really is like the dumb football boy, and she is the smart, pretty girl. And I just love it. I love it so much, and it's so great. And Travis, you know, is he's not dumb, but it's just the way they were talking back and forth was just so great. Jason did an incredible job on their interview. It could not have been better. I loved every single piece of it. There was not a section I was like, okay, I'm bored. Even the otters, I was like, okay, this is really relatable. I mean, I'm kind of over it, but it's pretty relatable, so I'm listening. And maybe that's how you feel about my podcasts sometimes. But I will say, as a seasoned podcaster, which I am, I've done this for 5 years, I was screaming at Taylor, put the mic in your face, like get it closer to your mouth. I was like, am I a better podcaster than Taylor Swift? You know, this is her first podcast though, so I'm going to let it slide. But I needed her to speak into the microphone. It was stressing me out. But it was so good. I'm so blessed to live in the same time as Taylor. It's really an honor. And I can't wait to go to Life of a Showgirl. Who can say when the tour is going to be or if she is going to do a tour? But if she does, I'm there. I'm there. And the last time I went to a Taylor Swift tour, which was the Eras tour, I did in fact bring my breast pump and pumped while I was there. So if I have to do that again, I will. You know, who's going to watch all 3 of my children? I'm not sure. I really have not sat down and taken time and processed that I'm having 3 children. I'm going from 1 child to 3. Most people go from 1 to 2 to 3. And I'm going from 1 to 3. And the fact that I'm going to have 3 children and I'm not even 30 yet is a little bit crazy. I mean, I'll be 30 by the time I have the 3 children. But it's really crazy. We had pretty much a mini anatomy scan on Friday. Every podcast I record, I'm basically going to have a twin update because I see them pretty much every week. I'm about to start going every 2 weeks to do this testing on them because there's all these complications that can happen with twins and you have to go every 2 weeks. And I'm about to start that in the next 2 weeks. But I got to basically have a mini anatomy scan where they looked at their hearts, their lungs, their legs, their arms, their brains, their hearts. Like we really did all of it as much as we could at 13 weeks. And the fact that there's 2 boys inside of my body right now, just rolling all over on top of each other, you know, growing so big, so strong, heartbeats are strong, they look fantastic, like we could not have a better report, is so crazy to me. When I just sit down and think about it, about the twins, I'm just like, I have 2 babies inside of me, not 1, 2. Like that's so crazy. So crazy. I know I'm not the first person in the world to have twins, you know, newsflash, woman has twins. Like that's not crazy. But it's crazy that it's happening to me. This is something that happens to other people, not to me. And I'm having them. Like it's such a blessing. The Lord really gave me a double portion after the miscarriage. He was like, here you go. Here's your double portion. I love you. Here you go. And it was just such a blessing, truly, that we are having these boys and that they look so perfect. And I get to be their mom. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be a boy mom. I think last episode I said that we were feeling pretty good about their names. Even more so now, we're feeling pretty good about their names. There's one of them is still a little bit hard to wrap my brain around, and it's a name that I feel like no middle name goes with. I was asking ChatGPT for middle names, even though we had family names picked out. I still was like, it doesn't sound like a beautiful name put together. Like my girl names, like, well, one girl name had a middle name. The second girl name did not. So one girl, her just first and middle just flowed beautifully. And now that we're using family names, they're not necessarily going to flow as much. And so I'm just trying to like figure that out, But when Thomas saw this baby B, he immediately was like, oh, that's blank. And I was like, okay. And these are names that you guys did suggest, which were already on our list. So we already had the names on our list that you guys said, not every single name you guys suggested, but a lot of the ones that you suggested. It was comforting to me, like, okay, y'all like these names too. I like these names. Okay, they're not crazy. I like short names. They're not insane. They're like normal names. Like you'll hear this name from somebody else other than my child, like that's how it is. My girl names were a little bit more out there, but my boy names are not. So I'm really excited. They're so sweet and cute, and just watching them like interact with each other on the ultrasound was the greatest thing I could have ever seen. Honestly, it really was. The doctor the ultrasound tech was like trying to wake baby B up because baby B was just resting, and we needed to get a good profile shot of his head, and he was just resting. And it was so funny just to see him just like, so, because he was so tired from messing with his brother, because we were trying to get photos of his brother, and he kept popping in there. And it's so crazy how the ultrasound techs can tell which baby is which, and that's why it's their job and not mine. Because there's a couple times I'm like, are you sure you're on a baby B, not baby A, or you're on a baby A, not baby B? And it's super important that they keep track of who is who, because they are tracking their weight and their growth is a really big deal for me to be also, for the health of them in general, and for us to make sure that they don't have any complications. But especially if I want to have a vaginal birth, which I do, we're praying for, and if they have to be within a certain percentage of each other to be able to have a vaginal birth. So we have to really track them and not get them confused in the womb. So, we're hoping for the best. They explained to me how they can tell them apart. I don't really know, but I just am trusting my doctors that it's gonna be fine. So there's your life updates. My son starts preschool next week, which we are very excited for. I cannot wait for him to get back in preschool. He needs to be back in preschool. It will be better for everybody when he's back in preschool. I will finally start posting content again. Maybe I'll be feeling better at that point. I did, throw up this morning, and that just is what it is. You guys, I'm throwing up all the time. Oh, I have to tell you my Zaxby story, you guys. If you follow me on Instagram, you already saw this, but if you just happen to miss the story, you're going to want to buckle up, because I have to tell you the most embarrassing thing that has ever happened to me in my life happened. And because this is the podcast, I'm going to tell you guys in detail, and you're just going to have to be embarrassed with me. And I'm just going to share a lot right now. And it is what it is, because I just want you to not feel so alone. So I'm having pelvic floor problems where I sneeze and pee, and I pee on myself all the time. I'm trying to get into a pelvic floor physical therapist. As you guys know, they're expensive. I'm trying to get in, but I have not seen one yet. I desperately need to go. Anyways, I'm feeling really horrible on Thursday. I wake up feeling awful. I'm like, I know I'm going to throw up, but I just like feel really horrible. And before, when I would throw up when I was pregnant with Tate, I would feel better after I threw up. I would throw up, and then I'd feel better and go on with my day. With the twins, I'm throwing up. I'm feeling horrible the whole rest of the day. I threw up this morning. I feel horrible right now, but here we are recording the podcast. It's going to be okay. So on Thursday, I wake up. I'm feeling horrible. Thomas has to go into work. He has a meeting with his boss, and they have like a check-in meeting. I'm like, okay, I'm feeling really horrible, but we can do this. Like, Paw Patrol is on all day for Tate. He just is being raised by Ryder right now. It is what it is. So he's watching Paw Patrol. I am like trying to eat. Everything I eat, I'm spitting out. I'm feeling horrible. I'm like, you know what? I'm feeling horrible. I'm just feeling horrible. This is really bad. All of a sudden, I'm like, gotta go throw up. So I'm throwing up. But while I'm throwing up, I'm peeing everywhere. It's like so much pee, like your first morning pee, like it's everywhere. Pee, I'm covered head to toe, and maybe not head to toe in pee, waist down. I'm covered in pee. There's pee all over the floor. In between throw ups, I'm yelling at Tate, can you bring me my phone? And he's like, I don't know where it is, mommy, but I'll bring it to you. And I'm like throwing up, and then I'm leaning out. I'm like, it's on the chair. I'm throwing up again. He's like, where on the chair? I'm like, it's on the white chair. And he can't find anything, even if it's in front of his face. He's like, can't find it. That's just, he's a boy. That is what it is. They can't ever find anything. I finally finished throwing up, like waddled to go get my phone. I called Thomas. He had left probably 15 minutes before that. Maybe not 15, probably 10 minutes before. I'm like sobbing. I'm like, oh, you gotta come home. I threw up and I peed everywhere and I can't move. I'm like, I'm so sorry you have your meeting. And he's like, it's absolutely fine. Our church is so great. His boss is so wonderful. He's like, take care of your wife. That is most important. Like, I'm not worried about it. So I'm very, very, very grateful for that. And very grateful that he was understanding about Thomas needing to come home. So Thomas comes home, helps me out. He ends up having to leave again because he has a job. So he leaves after I shower, get myself together, and emotionally and physically. So then I order Zaxby's because Zaxby's is quite literally the only thing I can eat this pregnancy. I can't eat anything else. It's just Zaxby's. And I eat it all the time. And it just is what it is. That's what I'm eating. And I don't know, it's bad for you, but that's what I'm eating. So I'm eating so much Zaxby's, and I order it on DoorDash. And they, 30 minutes in, they cancel my order. And then they redo it again. And then 30 minutes later, they keep delaying it. And I'm like, you know what? It's not coming. It's not, different Dashers have shown up and left. My food is just not there. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to cancel it. Me and Tate are getting in the car. We're going to Zaxby's. I barely have clothes on. I'm like, we're just going to go to the drive-thru. I don't care. So I throw Tate, he's got his pajamas, we get in the car, we go to Zaxby's. On the way over there, I'm like, what if the Zaxby's is closed? Where am I going to eat? What am I going to do? This has been a horrible day. I feel so sick. I need to eat. And I'm just freaking out. I'm like, but it's going to be okay. This is just the hormones talking. It's going to be fine. I get to Zaxby's, order my food. And since I eat at Zaxby's all the time, I know what size drink comes with what meal I get. So I get to the front, and all I wanted was a cherry vanilla Dr. Pepper, and I needed a medium size because I knew that I was so sick and I needed that whole drink. The caffeine is fine for when I'm pregnant, the milligrams, whatever. I'm like, I need this drink. So I get to the front and in the drive-thru, and the teenage boy hands me a small. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, it doesn't come with a medium? He's like, no, it's a small. And I was like, okay, well, can I just pay for it? He's like, but you're going to have to pay for it. And I was like, I know. And he was like, but I mean, you'd have to pay for a whole new drink. Even though I had already said I'd pay for another drink, I immediately start uncontrollably sobbing. I am tears flowing down my face. I am freaking out. The boy looks at me and he goes, oh, I'm sorry. Here, take the drink. I'll get you another one for free. Don't even worry about it. He is freaking out. I have fully traumatized this teenage boy. I'm sobbing. I'm like, I'm so sorry. I've just had a really rough day. Zaxby's already canceled my DoorDash order twice, so I came here to get some more food. I've been really sick today. I'm pregnant with twins. This is not your fault. Can I just get the big drink? I'm really sorry. And he's freaking out. He's like, what is going on? He's like, what drink do you want? I was like, I just need the cherry vanilla Dr. Pepper. And I also have Dr. Pepper at the house, but I needed the fountain and I needed it to be cherry vanilla. Okay. And so he leaves to go get my drink as fast as he possibly could. And then this other lady who's a little bit older came into the window, and she lays on the window and she was like, what's wrong, baby? And I was like, so I told her everything. I was like, I'm sorry. I just went through the whole thing again. I was like, I'm really sorry. I'm pregnant with twins. He didn't do anything wrong. It's not a big deal. And she just hands me 2 cookies. And I was like, okay. And then since she handed me 2 cookies, I started crying again because she was so sweet and handed me 2 cookies. And I was a disaster. You guys, I could not pull it together. I can't explain it to you how embarrassed I was that I could not stop crying. You're telling yourself, stop crying. It's not a big deal. Calm down. I could not calm down. I needed that drink. And so I have to pull forward because my food is not ready yet. So I pull forward. And while I'm waiting waiting at the forward, I'm like, pull it together, Hannah. Stop crying. So I kind of stopped crying, but I'm still red, snotty. I look like an actual disaster from throwing up that morning. Even though I did shower, I still just looked so bad. And the boy comes up and hands me my food. He's like, here you go, ma'am. And I was like, again, I'm I start crying again. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Thank you. I'm okay. I promise it's not you. You guys, I have never been more embarrassed in my entire life. I mean, I uncontrollably sobbed. And on the way home, I could not stop crying. I was so embarrassed. I could not stop crying. I hear Tate in the back going, are you done crying yet, mama? Are you done crying yet? So I traumatized my 2.5-year-old and the Zaxby's worker. So I'm doing really good over here. At least I entertained this Zaxby's employee. Hopefully he had some really good things to tell his Snapchat group chat about me because, man, I am a walking embarrassment. And I would say that I can never show my face again at Zaxby's, but considering how much these boys need Zaxby's, I will be going back. So Anyways, there's my pregnancy update for you. I'm a hot mess and it will be okay or not. I'm going to have to get Zaxby's after this because I'm talking about it so much. So I will be door dashing that immediately. Anyways, let's get to today's actual episode, 15 minutes in. Sorry, I was feeling very chatty, had a lot to talk about. Today's episode's a little bit heavy. I have just been feeling like I need to record this episode, but I've been kind of putting it off, and it's because it's like a heavy thing to talk about, and I don't always want to talk about heavy things, but here we are. So I want to talk about my deconstruction process and staying a Christian, because I was deconstructing purity culture, as so many of us do. And when I was trying to find like community, when I was posting about this, when I had early started my podcast and was going through purity culture, trying to deconstruct purity culture, I found that a lot of people had left the faith, which I understand. It's hard, it's a lot, especially if you have church hurt, because a big part of my deconstruction of purity culture was also deconstructing the church hurt that I had. And every one of us, probably has a church hurt of some point at some level. Mine had to do with abuse, lies, cover up of abuse, and like actual abuse, in all the ways. It did not happen to me. I need to be very clear. The abuse did not happen to me, but it happened to the person closest to me at the time, and as close as we could possibly be, that is the person that it happened to. And I was the first person that she told that this happened to, and so I was walking her through this entire process of getting out of this abuse from a pastor that I had looked up to for many, many, many years, a pastor I had worked under for many, many years. And so this was, really, really life-changing for me. Actually life-changing. This process changed my life. If I did not go through that, I don't know if I would have this podcast today, just to be honest with you. And I don't tell this story a lot because it's, number one, like, it's not my personal experience to share. I do have a lot of personal experiences from it. I went through it, but the abuse didn't happen to me, and I just don't like to talk about it all the time. But it is an important part of my story as I am sharing this part, because what I went through was really intense. It was really heavy. It was really hard. I had so much anxiety. I moved to Colorado immediately after. I felt like Colorado was where I needed to go. I felt like the Lord was pulling me there, but I definitely was running away from what had happened with the abuse. I needed to get out. It was really, really awful. I remember trying to listen to the Mars Hills podcast at one point, which is about Mars Hills Church, and I genuinely couldn't listen to it because it brought up so much trauma for me. A couple months into me and Thomas living in Colorado, Thomas tried to scare me one time to be funny, and I hit the ground immediately and was sobbing uncontrollably, and I was like, okay, I'm not okay. Like, I have to go to therapy. And so that started my therapy journey for about 2 years, like weekly. For 2 years, I had to go to therapy to work through this. And to this day, I still go to church. I'm very involved in my church. I lead a life group at my church, which is a group of parents with kids under 5. My husband is on staff at a church. I'm at church all the time. Church is very important to me. I will not ever work at a church again. I say that, and, Thomas always kind of laughs, but, maybe one day. I have at this point no desire to ever be on staff again at a church, just because of the stuff that I had went through, but I do think that it is a miracle after all of the really, really intense stuff that happened at the church, that I am still a Christian, because I remember looking for people, and like I said, there's a lot of people who deconstructed who are not Christians anymore. Their entire faith has changed in what they believe in, and I was able to go through this really, really intense stuff. And this was just that was one place with one group of people. There was other church things. I was a part of a church plant that was only there for a year, and then it had to close because of COVID, and a lot of stuff happened with that, and that was really heavy and intense too. So I have gone through a lot of experiences with church, and I still am here. I'm still attending. Jesus is still everything to me. That has not changed at all. I went through my deconstruction process and came out better. I deconstructed the beliefs that I had, what I thought was the Bible, what I thought was Jesus, realized it wasn't, realized it's not what Jesus was calling us to do or calling us to act or calling us to treat people. And now I'm a better Christian for it. My faith is so much stronger. I recognize that Jesus is so open to my questions and my doubts. He's not running away from it. I mean, one of the disciples is known as Thomas the Doubter, doubting Thomas, and so he is so willing to listen to those things and work through that with me. Jesus never left me through this whole process. There was so much time where I didn't read my Bible. I couldn't. I had this big block with reading my Bible. I remember going through this in therapy because I went to a Christian therapist, and I specifically wanted a Christian therapist because I was going to work through all the church stuff I had gone through, and I needed a Christian therapist who would understand the church world. Like, that was important to me because you have to understand the church world to be able to help me through what I had gone through and what it means to be on staff at a church. And so part of me rebuilding my faith was rebuilding my faith in therapy. So that's why I'm such a proponent for you can love Jesus and go to therapy. Like, it truly saved my life. I do not know where I would be if I didn't go to therapy and didn't take that time to rebuild my faith. Because I mean, that saved my life. I was not okay. I was deeply unwell. I was ridden by anxiety constantly and depressed. I was not okay. And I was able to come out of it because of the time that I spent in therapy with Jesus. We would take time in therapy to like do these different, activities is not the word. I did brain spotting therapy. So we would do these different just types of therapy. And part of it was picturing Jesus with me in certain situations. And where do I see Jesus in this moment? And so she would incorporate Jesus into the therapy sessions and in a really, really meaningful way. And that really changed my life, truly. But I remember what I was saying about me reading the Bible. There was a long period of time where I could not read my Bible because every time I was in therapy, it was like working through my relationship with the Lord in therapy. It was always a big emotional experience. Like, I would cry, and I really believe Satan used that against me because he didn't want me to spend time in the Word. And so I had this like block in my brain that if I sat down and read my Bible, it'd be this big emotional experience, and I don't want to experience a big emotional experience because, like I said, the person who was the abuser in the situation was a pastor, and I really looked up to him. I loved when he spoke at our church. It was a really big deal. Like, I really liked what he said. I do believe that the Lord used him to speak some things that he did, even though he abused. Like, it's really crazy to wrap my brain around all this, but I learned a lot from him. And so it really it was just hard because, you say like big picture, it's not about man, it's about Jesus and you, but you do go to church and you learn from these people. So it was hard to not separate out what I was reading in the Bible from this pastor who had spoken these things and what was actually happening behind closed doors and what he was doing. And so I just had this big block with reading the Bible. So there was a long time where I didn't read my Bible, and the Lord was still with me in it. The Lord was still with me in it. He never left me. He never forsaked me. Like, he was still with me in it. And so I think deconstructing purity culture and my beliefs about the church is what eventually kept me in the church. And so I was going to say I was going to talk about it, but I've already really dove into it. I had to go through a lot of really just deconstructing, and a lot of it was spending time like actually with Jesus, but I would do it in therapy because I felt like I couldn't do it on my own. There was times I could do it on my own, but it was mostly times in therapy. And I'll say this, a lot of this that I was going through was while I was doing another church plant. So I was still actively involved in church, leading a life group or small group at my church at the time. Like, I was really involved, but I was going through the real deconstruction of purity culture. And I will say, I have always had my faith. There's not a time in my life where I can remember not knowing Jesus. My parents always brought me to church. I swear my mom had me, and I was at Sunday school the next day. I was always involved in church. Even when we moved around different times in my life, we always found a church to go to. We would go pretty immediately. And even though I was a crazy teenager doing crazy things, like, I still was a Christian. It was very important to me. My faith was truly the foundation of my life. So there's never been a time where I haven't had it. And I think because of that, that also helps me stay a Christian because it truly was my entire foundation, my entire foundation. And I really had to separate out what purity culture had shown Jesus as, and then what I believe Jesus has. When I actually felt like I could read the Bible, I spent so much time in the Gospels. I spent so much time in the Gospels reading them and just like studying how Jesus acted, because that is what I needed. That is what I needed. I didn't need to know the background of, all these people and how God did all this stuff to the earth and was mad at us. Like, I did not need that. At that moment, I really needed to study what Jesus did and how he acted. And all the Old Testament stories, those are very important. I really love Isaiah, and it's important to read, but I needed this time to study Jesus and what he said about us, what he says about us and how he believes about us, because I really felt like I had such a warped view of it in a very shame-based way. And I needed to get out of the shame. And so reading about Jesus's life was what was life-changing for me in my deconstruction of purity culture process, and reading the creation story. So reading the creation story, which I've talked about that a million times over. You guys know the creation story is really important to me, and reading how Jesus created us, or God created us and created the earth, and how intentional he was and what he said about it and all that is really important to me. So reading the first couple books of Genesis, or chapters in Genesis, and then reading the Gospels really was where I was able to find my relationship back with the Lord and start seeing who I believe Jesus really is, and not what man said Jesus was, because I was believing a lot of what other people were teaching me about Jesus, and it was very, very shame-based instead of having it be my own. So during this process, it really became my own, and I was willing to tell God how mad I was at him. And I think that was a really important part too. There's so much, when you grow up in the church, so much of it feels like formulaic, like you know how to say the things, you pray the quote unquote right way, you go to God in the right way. And I had to just break all that down and go to God in the only way I knew how at that point, and that was to be honest. And there were so many times where I remember during that season where I just did not feel like I was hearing from God at all. And I had to be willing to sit in that and just be like, okay, maybe one day I'll hear from God again, or maybe I'll see God moving when I don't feel like I am right now, and just have to trust that he's there and he's moving, because I know that he is, and I'm seeing it. Also, I'm seeing it every week. Like that was the part of this that's really hard for a lot of people to understand. I was still involved in church, but there was also a big part of this when our church had closed and it was COVID. And I was trying to find a new church, which I will talk about in a minute, because that was extremely difficult. I was coming in with a lot of baggage. And that was a big part of building back my relationship with the Lord as well. I think just the foundation of my faith is really what kept me through, because even the time where I wasn't hearing from God, I was still telling him how I felt about things and being really honest and saying how mad I was. And just understanding that God is not going to be mad at me for me being honest, because he's God. So he knows already how I'm feeling in my brain. He already knows. And so it's best that I just be honest with him. And that was really helpful in my deconstruction process, was really, really helpful, because I needed to be honest, because I couldn't go and say, thank you, Jesus, for this day. And I love you so much. And you're so good. And you're showing up in my life every day. And I'm just so grateful. Like, that is not how I felt. That is how I feel in other seasons of my life. But that was not how I felt at the time. I was like, why did you allow this to happen? Why were people dishonest? Why didn't I say something when I should have about something? Like, why did you let this happen and let this go on for 8 years that it went on? Why did this, happen this way and this way? And I was just so upset for such a long time, and upset at what I thought church was, and then upset about how I handled things, because I definitely didn't handle things right during that process either at all. I had no idea what I was doing, and I was really mad and really upset and said things about people I shouldn't have, and spoke about people in ways that I didn't need to, and it was a really bad time. And I, have repented for the way that I acted during that time, but I also give myself grace for that, because my world had fallen apart and I was not acting out of the best place that I am. And I was young when that was happening. I was young 20s. So my brain was not even fully formed when all that was happening. So I was definitely, I definitely give myself grace for that. I've apologized where I needed to apologize for the most part. It was really hard. And it's really crazy, because this all happened like years ago at this point of me talking to you. And I'm still affected by it to this day. I have dreams about this, what happened. I have dreams about the people, like, if I'm stressed out about something, they're in my dream. Like, it's there. Like, it is still affecting me to this day. And sometimes I'm like, well, am I not over it? And I was talking to somebody the other day about church hurt, and he said that he went through something like a year ago and he was still wrestling with it, and he was really struggling, and he was like, I thought that I was past this, and I'm like still dealing with it. And I thought I was past it. And he's like, I've kind of come to the realization that there may be some things on this side of heaven that I just will never fully be able to like wipe my hands from and move on from. And that's just something that's going to be dealt with in heaven. And I'm just like trying to wrap my brain around that being okay. I know I've been thinking about that a lot. And I'm like, I feel like that's kind of how the situation is, because for the most part, I have been like moved on from it all, and I'm okay, and I'm with the Lord, and we're good, and I'm at church, and it's great. But then the dreams come back in, or I see something and I'm triggered, and it's just like, it's just hard, it's just hard. But even with all of that, I still love Jesus. I still love Jesus. And that never stopped happening. I was honest. I continued talking to the Lord, mostly in therapy. I was not doing, a lot of it was not happening on my own. I will tell you that. Most of it was with my therapist. But it really kept me going. And especially kept me going at the time where we did not have a church. So our church had closed and there was COVID, and I was still going through all of this. And it was time for us to find a new church. And that was a really big part of me trusting the church again, because the first church that we had gone to, every week that we would go, because we were like giving it a shot. We were like, we're ready. We want to try this. Like, we do want to be back involved in church. We had this one church. We really liked the pastor. So we're like, we're going to go, we're going to try. We like met the pastor once before, so we really liked it. We liked him, and so we were gonna go. And we went for some time. Like, we gave it time. And every week we would go, I would feel so much physical anxiety walking into the building every single time. And I still went. And I'm really proud of myself for that. And I wanted to share that part specifically because a lot of times, like, we really do need to listen to our body. And this was one of those times where I was like, if I let the anxiety stop me, I will never go back. If I let the anxiety stop me, I will never walk into this building again. And so it was really a big, like, I can do hard things feelings. And I can push through this, and it will be okay. And I really think listening to your body is important, but I really was at a stage where if I just didn't push through that anxiety, I genuinely would have never gone back to church, because I was still anxious all the time. Like, I just really had no idea what to expect. My first few days at the church we're at now, first few days I was at the church now, I was anxious going to. Like, it just really took some time for my body to be adjusted to that again. And it really is like a fight or flight response. Like, my body goes into like, what if something has happened mode. And when we came to this new church, I straight up asked the pastor, I was like, what is your policy for if this happens? And what is your history with this and within your staff? Like, I straight up asked those questions, and he was ready to answer them and had no problem answering them, and answered them with full honesty and shared whatever he needed to share. Like, there was no holding anything back, which I really appreciated. And that was, I was like, okay, I have a lot of peace about this being our church because of how you handled this. But when I went to that new church, we were trying really hard to meet people and get connected. And it was probably just a COVID thing, but we were struggling to like actually meet people. And we decided to we decided to volunteer at one of their events. And I'll never forget, we went and volunteered and no one spoke to us. And I know that you're probably like, yeah, someone had to have spoken to you. Like, there was maybe 10 people at this volunteer event, and there was 4 of us, and it was like us 4 in our group and then everybody else. And like, we tried to like talk here and there to other people, but it was like nobody was interested in speaking to us. Like, nobody came over and made an effort, and it was really hard. It was really hard, and we were really shocked, and we were really hurt. And I just remember being so upset after that. I was like, we tried and put ourselves out there and nothing happened. And then the next Sunday, or the day after that, because I was a Saturday, and the day after that, we went up to like do, we're trying to get more connected here. And they were like, oh yeah, you were at the event yesterday, right? And I was like, yep. And like, nobody spoke to us at that event. And so like, you clearly knew that I was there, and you still chose not to speak to us. And so it was really hard. And I know, like, I also have personal responsibility and can talk to people as well. And we tried, and it just still didn't go anywhere. And so I was like, okay, I guess like, I don't really feel like this is the place for us. And I just remember being so upset, and I was really sad. And that church is great. Like, I really do think that is a great church. Maybe it just like we went at the wrong time, or it wasn't for us. And so we didn't go back after that, but we really tried. We were going for probably a month or so, maybe even more. I don't remember. We went for a long time. Maybe we went for like 2 or 3 months. I can't remember. We went for a long time. And even after that, I still was like, church is important. We need to find a new church. I just recognize that the community aspect of church is so important. It is biblical that if you are a Christian, that you are gathering at a church. And it's not just online church, it's actual in-person church. It is important and imperative that you are around believers to encourage you, to support you, to pray together. It is so powerful when 3 or more come together and pray, or 2 or more. My brain doesn't work right now. It is so important that we come together and pray and come together and worship. So much can happen when you are in the body of other believers. And so I knew, like, okay, this is what God asked me to do, so we're going to go again. So even after that hard experience, I still decided to go back. And that's when we found the church that we were at in Colorado, that we stayed at for a long time, that Thomas eventually started working at. And it was really great. And we went one Sunday and I was like, I feel like this is the place we need to be. And then we never tried anywhere else. But I say all this to say, like, not every church is perfect. And I really had to recognize that every church is not perfect. And church, as they say, everyone always says this, but it's because it's true. The church is led by imperfect people. But I believe it's important for the church to understand that if these imperfect people are doing things that are extremely wrong, that we handle that in a certain way. And so it's good to have those things set in stone. But I continue to go, and I recognize how important community is. And so during all the time of my deconstructing purity culture and deconstructing what I believed about Jesus, I recognize that community is important. I'm going to back up a little bit. There's like 3 things that I think really, I would say 4 things that was really helpful in my staying a Christian process of deconstructing. Because I did not want to lose my faith. I didn't think I was going to, but the 4, I think, big things that were really important to me was that I stayed in worship. So I was not reading my Bible, but I was worshiping and having just the Lord's, even the times where I had no words to pray. I couldn't pray. I was like kind of faking it and putting on and like hoping for the best. I still listened to worship music, and I still was like letting those words over me and run through my body. And it just really helped keep my foundation strong, even when it felt really weak. I stayed in church. Like I said, we were going to different churches. Like, we did not let that stop us. And like I said, I didn't let my anxiety stop me. I still went in, and that was very important. We stayed in community. I stayed around other believers, and they were encouraging me throughout my process. And so that was really important. And I was willing to ask the questions, like willing to ask God these really hard questions, ask Jesus these really hard questions. I was willing to ask the pastors hard questions, and it was all really welcomed in a really great way, which I'm grateful for with the answering questions part. But I would say those things are really important. And I really was like active in therapy during that time. And if you are going through the deconstruction process right now, and you're thinking like, I'm stuck, I'm wavering, I don't really know what to do, like, I really do recommend therapy. Like, sometimes you may think, oh, I don't have enough going on in my life to like constitute going to therapy. Was that even the right word? Whatever. Therapy can still benefit you so much. And having my Christian therapist really helped my process so much. I found my Christian therapist by literally just Googling Christian therapists near me. That's how I found her. And then I also used Psychology Today as well. And I don't think I've initially connected with her on Psychology Today, but I have used Psychology Today in the past, and I've seen a therapist here in North Carolina, and she was great. But I really just Googled Christian therapist near me, and that's where I started. And I found her, and we just connected right off the bat, and it was really great. And like I said, I saw her for 2 years, and I really believe like that is what kept me a Christian with my therapy. And so if you're thinking like, do I even have enough? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. But I think it's important to find the right therapist. Seeing a Christian therapist, I think, is helpful. One that will not shame you. Hopefully yours will not. I think the Lord just like led me to her, and I'm forever grateful for the Lord like leading me to this therapist, because it was exactly what I needed during that time. So there is the really like vulnerable, part of my story of deconstructing. and staying a Christian. I hope that this encouraged you, in your process. If you're doing this deconstruction of purity culture stuff, it's not fun, but I think it's important work. And I'm a stronger Christian today. My faith is as strong as it could ever be. And I think it's because I went through this really hard stuff and I came out on the other side of it. And so if you are in the middle of it, I believe you can come out on the other side of it as well. And I'm just praying that the Lord will continue to show up in your life, even when you may not see it or may not feel it. I am praying that for you. It is hard, but it is something that I think is worth it, because now my faith feels like my own and not something I just believed because it's what I grew up in, I also just give myself so much grace for that time, because I was still so young going through all of that. My brain wasn't fully formed. I didn't know what I was doing. And now I just feel so much more just strong in it as I'm getting older, as many things get better the older you get. So anyway, now I have a vulnerability hangover, but I love you guys. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and we will talk soon.